Hello everybody, welcome to StraightA, Dawson here. Back with another video here today. As you see from the title, we got some head coaching changes, and as the recording of this video is the same day, Commanders have just hired their new head coach. I forgot what his name is. I got to pull up all the new head coaches. Alright, Dan Quinn. And I kind of read up on all these new guys that I'm not very familiar with, and I want to give my opinions just for this next season about what kind of coach are these guys going to be, who's on the chopping block, all that good stuff. But without further ado, before we get started in that, please leave a like on the video down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please comment any suggestions you have for the channel if you haven't already, of course. Without further ado, now we'll get right into it. And before we get started, as you see, there's 6 tiers here. There's elite coach, and mean they're the top tier coach. No doubt in my mind how good of a coach they are. Pretty damn good. Like, hey, you know what? They're pretty up echelon. Maybe not quite like elite yet, but like they got their stance in the NFL head coaching scene. Overly optimistic. We'll actually have a few coaches where I think they're good, but like I can see where people kind of get a little bit more edgy with them. It's like, okay, well, there's some flaws there that we need to work out. So whatever. Then there's fine. Just coaches I really don't have much of an opinion on, or like, okay, whatever, like they're fine, they exist. And our coaches, I'm like, I just don't know, either don't know enough about you, don't like you, haven't seen enough from you, and then don't like them. There's only one head coach in my mind that is in don't like him mode right now, but I may go through this and be talking about some of the coaches here, so we'll see as it goes on. I do have some of the names pulled up, so I have the recollection of some of these head coaches. But first of all, we'll start with the Arizona Cardinals. They have Jonathan Gannon, and he's a weird dude. You know, it's fine. I just think he's fine. I think if you asked me this upon his hiring, or even early on in the season, I would have said but I think he's done pretty well with the Cardinals, and I think he deserves fine. I don't have any strong opinions on him. I just think he's doing a fine job. Raheem Morris, I'm going to put him in So he's the new head coach for the Atlanta Falcons. I don't see a great track record from him, but also I don't want to judge him too much. I don't want to judge many of these head coaches a whole lot because, like, I don't know enough about them. But just from everything I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot of great vibes I'm getting from Raheem Morris. I hope he proves me wrong. I just think he's one of the head coaches I'm like, that's a weird hiring, it feels like. Atlanta Falcons have a good team. He seems kind of not necessarily fresh because he has some coaching experience, but it doesn't seem like the track record really falls with the talent on the team. Now, I will say he's very gritty, and I like that about him. But from the initial kind of conversations he's had about how he's going to utilize the team, and I hope he does well. I don't know enough about him. He doesn't seem like someone I'm too strongly one way or the other on. So I'm just going to put him at because I don't think he's fine. I just think he's whatever. I got John Harbaugh. I think if you don't put him pretty damn good, I think you're doing something crazy. Honestly, I'm kind of up there elite coaching. His recent years kind of make me want to put him in pretty damn good, but I could see an argument either elite coaching or pretty damn good. If I'm going to lean one way or the other, I think actually I got to put him in elite coaching. I just think he's done really well with that Ravens team. I think he's the bottom of kind of the elite coaches, but like he's got himself established. He's doing very well for himself, and he's just had a good track record. Sure, does he blow some big games? Sure, but every team does that, and I don't think you can fault him too much on that one. Either way, Sean McDermott, I think he's just definition of pretty damn good. I think he's a solid head coach. And sure, he makes mistakes. Sure, he said some crazy things in the locker room, but he's just a fine head coach. I don't really have many hard opinions about him. I think he wins games, and he's able to coach up that team to a decent level. So I'm just going to put him pretty damn good. I don't think he's overly optimistic about him. So it's just whatever. Dave Canales is probably the only other new head coach I'm going to put in like a lower tier, just because these two just felt like it was just a weird signing for them. The Carolina Panthers basically hired not like a new guy. I guess he does like have a lot of fresh experiences. I mean, he's been with the Seattle Seahawks and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that was about it. And now he's of course the head coach of the Panthers. It doesn't seem makes a whole lot of sense for bringing a fresh guy to a team that's pretty much dead. I mean, yeah, I guess you could say they can build it up in his own way and stuff like that. And he seems like a fine guy. I just don't like him. I don't like the choice. And when I say don't like him, there's only one guy I'm going to refer to, and he's going to be up pretty close. That I just genuinely don't like the guy. Well, this guy, again, for all these new head coaches, I hope we see something great from him. I just don't like the decision there. So don't like him can also be like don't care for the choice. It just doesn't sit right with me. Matt Eberflus is the guy I'm talking about. I just don't like him. I just straight up don't like him. I think he's worse than Dave Canales by a long shot. I think he's the next head coach to get fired. I don't know. I just don't think he's great. I think that while the team itself has been building together pretty well, I don't really think Matt Eberflus is the guy in charge, not in charge of that, but really to take responsibility for that. I personally just don't like him. I think he's an awful head coach. I think he's not a great personality either. Whatever. Sue me if you want to. Because moving on, we do have Zach Taylor. And I just think I want to put him in pretty damn good. I want to. But I'm going to put him in overly optimistic. Just because I feel like, I don't know, there's a lot of shady calls. I like him. I just don't know his mindset at times. And it gets me a little like, are we making the right decision here? I'm not too sure. I like him, but I'm going to put him overly optimistic just because I don't care about him that much. Kevin Stefanski is a tough one just because I think he's had a really good season this year, but he has been all right before. So I'm going to put him above Zach Taylor in overly optimistic. I don't want to put him in pretty damn good. I don't think he's just fine. I think I'm overly optimistic about how well he did this season. It does worry me that he'll kind of have a drop-off similar to Brian Daboll, but I'm not going to completely write him off just yet because that team is really good and he's utilizing it pretty well. Made a run that this team could have only dreamed of with Deshaun Watson. So take that as you will. Mike McCarthy, I get it. People don't like him. He's a bad head coach. He's done with the times. I'm going to put him below Sean McDermott. He's pretty damn good. If you have a head coach that gets you to the playoffs pretty consistently, I don't think you can really complain too much. And this is going to get on a whole rant where the head coaching scene for a couple of the head coaches that were removed from their position. I get the movements and I do like some of the movements, but it's hard to let go of certain head coaches that are good and know that can win games. Unless their heart's just not genuinely in it anymore, it's kind of a rough pill to swallow. I'm looking at his record right here. He's 42-25 in the regular season. Now he is 1-3 in the postseason. But the thing is, I don't think you should almost ever fire someone because they lost in the postseason. It's a really complicated situation because if they get you to the postseason, that's only top 14 teams. And sure, if you're a first round exit, whatever, but now you're put in that position where you could possibly win a game. I just don't like the fact of if the coach is able to get you to the postseason regularly. Obviously, if it's a weird season that gets you to the postseason, but overall it was bad play or bad something going on, you kind of just sneak in. Sure, you can make some cases there. I just think as a general rule, Mike McCarthy, I think he's able to go out there and lead this Cowboys team. It just has to connect the pieces properly one day and not necessarily get lucky, but get the upper hand on a couple of these teams in the NFC. So I like Mike McCarthy just fine. He's pretty damn good. So whatever. Sean Payton, I'm going to put him at the bottom of overly optimistic just because he's established head coach. He only had one season with the Broncos. Call me a Broncos bias fan here. I'm still optimistic that Sean Payton's going to make the right decisions and still do good by the team. I'm just nervous. I'm very nervous. That's why he kind of goes in overly optimistic, but I think he's a fine head coach. I just don't think he's pretty damn good anymore. I just think he's kind of lost his touch with the current day. I think he's one of the only head coaches left that kind of follow that Bill Belichick type coaching style, or that kind of mindset. And I'm worried about that, but also like him just fine. So I'm going to put him at the bottom, overly optimistic, just to say, Dan Campbell, I think this season has proven to me that he's pretty damn good. And this is of course recorded after the conference championships have concluded. I've complained about how he possibly lost in that game. I don't think it really necessarily was him. I just think he made some shady calls that end up costing the game. Now, with that said, I think every player on that team pretty much, I can't think of anybody I can just think of that just played out of their mind, that really didn't do anything right, I guess. Everybody had a hand to play in the loss of that game. I'm not going to blame just Dan Campbell. And I don't like the fact that some people are already jumping on his throat. He has led a Detroit Lions team, which a couple years ago would have dreamed to be positive, much less, in the playoffs, in the conference championship. And this team has a very bright future. Dan Campbell is the right guy for that team. He's pretty damn good. And if you would have asked me at the beginning of the season, I would have put an overly optimistic top of it. But I think this season he proved he's pretty damn good. And I think he's able to build teams. Not only that, I don't know how good necessarily of a head coach style he is on the sidelines or whatever, but he can build teams. He can work with people and get people hyped up and ready to go. His personality also puts him up in the pretty damn good, in my opinion, at least. Green Bay Packers, Matt LaFleur, I'm going to put him in pretty damn good. he's historically good. I'll put him above Mike McCarthy and Dan Campbell out of respect. I personally just don't enjoy the guy, I guess. Nothing personal. It's just like if you asked me genuinely, I would put him in fine. But also, I know his track record's good. He's done really good by the Packers. He has a great record. His postseason's fine. So I'm going to give him the respect and put him in pretty damn good, because I think he's done pretty well for the Packers team this year too, especially going into a new era with Jordan Love. We'll keep him pretty damn good out of complete respect for him. I just don't personally resonate with the guy. D'Amico Ryans, I am, believe it or not, going to put him in top of overly optimistic. I like him. I think he's good. It's one season. I'm highly optimistic of this team. Very similar, maybe my mindset of Dan Campbell last year. I hope he's able to repeat it, and that's what I worry about with a lot of newer head coaches that are 1 year in, maybe even 2 years in, that are seeing success, but can they repeat it? I just want to see that from him. That's pure and to the point. I don't want to say he's pretty damn good just yet because they made an awesome run. Can he repeat it? Was it a fluke? Who knows? I don't know. I like the guy, but I'm overly optimistic is what I will say with him. Steve Steichen, is how you pronounce Steichen. I'm in between fine and because I just don't have much of an opinion on him. He's okay. I'm gonna say he's fine, purely because the season was actually not too bad. He recovered pretty well with it. I'm gonna put him below Jonathan Gannon because I like Jonathan Gannon actually a little bit. So he's just fine. I don't have too much of an opinion on him. I don't have much bad to say about the guy. I think he did pretty good for what he has and what he's able to do. Doug Peterson, man, last season and this season has me very weird about it. And overly optimistic is a very broad category, but I'm putting Doug Peterson in top of fine for now. I want to put, going into the season, he being overly optimistic. But now it's like we've seen the good and the bad of Doug Peterson. And so I just think right now he's in the fine category. I think he proves that he can lead a great team. I think he's also proven that he can kind of fumble the bag at times. So I think he's just fine right now. I don't think he's pretty damn good. I'm not overly optimistic about him. I just think he's a suitable head coach that'll probably stay for maybe a few years or whatever. I don't know. We'll just go with fine for now. I don't have too much of a bad opinion about him, so a top of fine. Kansas City Chiefs with Andy Reid. Come on, he's elite coaching. Is he the best head coach in the league currently? I think so. If I'm just looking at these other teams that we have around, I think he has to be the best damn head coach in the league. I don't think anybody would debate with me too much about that one. The Las Vegas Raiders, Antonio Pierce. I like him. I like Antonio Pierce. I think I'm a little wary for him. That's why I'm going to put him at the bottom of overly optimistic, even below Sean Payton. Maybe a little biased being a Raiders, but I like Antonio Pierce. I think he led the team pretty well. I think he is able to command the locker room pretty well. I think they picked him for a good reason. I'm overly optimistic for that team, and I hope he's able to build something together. I just don't have, it's almost like I almost have no opinion of him, but I also saw enough from him from last season that I kind of like his track record, and I think he's a good fit for the Raiders in the long term at the current moment in time. So I like him. Jim Harbaugh for the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm not much of a college guy. Just going to fully flat out say it. But the things I've seen from Jim Harbaugh are both the worst and the best things in the world. Since I don't know how he's going to translate to the NFL in current day. Of course, I know he has some kind of track record for the NFL before. Actually, and I just clicked the Los Angeles Chargers. Just going to refresh my mind here about what NFL history he has here. And he, as a player, wow, yeah, he has a long track record. But he was the Raiders head coach for a couple years, San Diego head coach. Wow, he's AFC West, that's right. San Francisco. It's just, he's, back when he made the Super Bowl against his brother, yeah, that was the whole fiasco one with the Ravens 49ers, wasn't it? Great. He's a good head coach. I think that no one can really take that away from him. I think of all the head coaches to be looking out for this next season, I think he's the one to look at. And that's why I'm going to, purely for the hype around him, for what he's able to do in college and what he has done previously in the NFL, I'm going to put him at top or overly optimistic. I think what I've seen from him looks good. He has a very talented team. He has all the pieces together. So it's kind of a recipe for overly optimistic for me. So you can judge me for that one. Maybe you should be higher because maybe he's greater. Maybe I don't know enough from him back in his actual NFL career days. Actually, so take that as you will. I'm going to put him top overly optimistic just because the landscape of the NFL is so much different. Sean McVay, I think if you don't put him in pretty damn good at the very least, it's an arguable type deal that he should be in elite coaching. I'm going to give him above the Packers for pretty damn good. That's kind of my bias showing for him. I think I like Sean McVay more than Matt LaFleur, of course, but I also think he's established. He's good. I think he's built an elite team to win the Super Bowl. He also just built the team from kind of not the ground up. Obviously, he still had the pillar stones of like Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, all that. But like he was able to kind of recover a little bit this season, and I like seeing that from him. He's very dynamic, and he's a really good guy. Whatever. Mike McDaniels. As a personality, he's elite. I think he brings a lot to the Dolphins locker room. That for one, he's able to kind of mesh with the players better. I think he's able to do some really fun. Puts a lot of fun eyes on the Dolphins. As a coach, I honestly kind of think he's one-dimensional. And I know I'm feeling overly optimistic, so I'm actually gonna go with fine here. As a head coach, I think he's fine. I think most of these coaches I have only gone by their coaching abilities at the moment. Dan Campbell is the only other guy I can think of that maybe use a little bit of his personality. So you can maybe say Mike McDaniels is overly optimistic. You're overly optimistic about Mike McDaniels. I think he's fine. I got nothing against the guy. I think I'd put him above Doug Peterson. I just don't feel too strongly about his head coaching abilities. He's a good head coach who has a one-dimensional strategy, and I just haven't seen anything else other than that one-dimensional strategy, and it always gets him in big trouble. I like the guy. I like the personality behind him, but at the same time, you also have to be more than the personality. And like I said, if you put him in overly optimistic, full credit to you. I respect that. I just at this point kind of like I'm fine with him. I don't have much of an opinion based on that. Kevin O'Connell for the Minnesota Vikings. I guess I don't know. This is probably another head coach I really just don't know enough about, and I don't want to judge him too hard. I don't necessarily hate the guy. I don't have anything against him. I just haven't seen anything that's like, oh wow, he's great. Jared Mayo, though, for the Patriots, I'm going to put him just behind the Texans here and overly optimistic. I love this. I was really hesitant about New England Patriots and their firing of Bill Belichick. I'm like, man, you have to find some kind of backup plan, and we'll get to the Seahawks later, but you have to find a good backup plan. And I think the Patriots hit the nail on the head the best they could. I think they recognize they're ready to kind of build something new, a new kind of culture there. And not using his personality necessarily, kind of in the same, like it plays well into how he seems like he's going to be able to lead the team. He has a great track record as linebacker head coach or linebacker coach or whatever. And I think he's good suited for the job, and the Patriots recognize. I think this is kind of the exact opposite with the Panthers here. I think that Jared Mayo has enough background and he's young enough to kind of build a new culture around the Patriots team, which I don't think is talented deficient. I just think it's struggling a little bit. While the Panthers have a new head coach with almost nothing background for a team they're rebuilding, and I didn't see anything personality-wise that helps resonate for me. So that's a big difference between these two head coaches. I like Jerry Mayo from what I've seen from him, and they are really backing him, and I respect that so much. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the Patriots do next season. New Orleans Saints with Dennis Allen. I'll put him above Kevin O'Connell, I guess. And I'm not too over. I don't hate him. Yeah, I guess I'll put him there. Again, these bottom five right now, I just have almost no, especially these three, I just have no big opinion of him. He seems like he's okay, but also at the same time, I don't know if he's able to really win. So he's I don't know. I'll give him probably the edge over Kevin O'Connell and the new head coach for the Falcons, which I already forgot his name. The Giants, Brian Daboll. I'm going to put him below Mike McDaniels, but above Doug Peterson. No, I'll put him below Jonathan Gannon. Wow, he kind of fell down the ranks there for me. This is the exact thing I was worried about from last season when he had a really great season. I'm like, oh, everybody's like, oh, dude, he's really good. I think he's fine. didn't see anything I loved about it, and I think at this point I was very optimistic about the Giants just because I thought the talent was there. I think that I saw a lot in the Giants that they had an easier schedule, and Brian Daboll's kind of dropped that ball. I think he's fine. Don't have anything against him. I think he's able to win games. I just don't think he's going to be a winning head coach next season or anything big. Robert Saleh, New York Jets, kind of in the fine category as well. I'll give him. I really like Jonathan Gannon. I don't know. I just think he's very smart. He seems like a very smart man who knows what he's doing, just not very personable. That's his big detractor there. I have no big opinion about Robert Saleh. He's a good head coach. I really don't know if I can really say good head coach. He's a fine head coach. I guess that's why he's in fine. But his track record's not great, like on paper. And I just don't know if he's the guy. I know there's been questions about whether he's really going to stick with New York and whether he's going to get fired and moved on. I would bank on him probably getting fired just because of his previous track record. I don't think the Jets are going to be a playoff team next season, even with Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to put him in... I'm going to put him... More I'm talking myself into it, kind of almost putting him in But I think he kind of goes in the same kind of category as Steichen, I guess. Yeah, we'll go with that and put Robert Saleh right there. Probably going to be fired. If I had a guess of some head coaches that are going to get fired, it's Robert Saleh and Matt Eberflus. Dennis Allen be a not horrible guess either. Those are 3 head coaches I'm looking at next season. We'll see. Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni. I think you got to put him up here. Do I put him above Harbaugh? No. I think he's elite coaching. I know a lot of people give him crap nowadays, but I think he's elite coaching. Another elite coach is Mike Tomlin. The only reason I'm not giving Mike Tomlin any higher in elite coaching, I think he's bottom elite head coaching pretty much. Because he's consistently got a great team. You can say what you want about him only going 8-8, 9-8, 10-7, whatever, making the playoffs. It's hard. It's damn hard to do that in the NFL. It's so hard. And you can say the team's built around it. I would fucking beg to differ. I think Mike Tomlin is a winning head coach. I just don't think he's great at talent building, I guess. It's probably my biggest critique on him. But even then, I think you can argue that he's kind of almost like he brings enough to the table in that case that he's like good, I guess. It's hard to describe. I like him. I think you cannot fire a guy like that who's able to consistently get you there, unless you just kind of want to move on, I guess. Like eventually, I guess if a head coach kind of gets kind of behind the times, which I don't think Mike Tomlin's behind the times. I just think he's not. I don't think he's got that one edge that's able to put him over the edge of some of these other AFC teams. I'm gonna put him in elite coaching. Judge me if you want to. Kyle Shanahan of San Francisco 49ers. I'm gonna keep him below Harbaugh. But above Sirianni, I think it's just he's got a great track record. I think he's gotten close to winning the games that he needs to and just hasn't pulled it off. I'm going to put him in elite head coaching right in number 3 spot right now. I think he's one of the best head coaches, and it's no surprise here that 2 of the best head coaches are pretty much in the Super Bowl. So take that as you will. Seattle Seahawks, Mike Macdonald. This is one I am actually kind of excited for, I guess is the best way I can say it for. It seems like the Seahawks are kind of going all in, kind of similar to the Patriots to a new culture building. It's just that he's kind of similar to Panthers head coach, whatever that guy's name is. I can't remember. Where he doesn't have a whole a splashy background. Now, what I will say is that Macdonald has a much more extensive background than the Panthers head coach, which again I cannot remember his name on top of my head. Dave Canellis or something like that. I like him, and I'm overly optimistic, but I'm going to put him kind of in that lower end tier of it, just because I don't know enough about him. But I'm actually liking where the Seahawks mindset is, so that's why I'm kind of I like this. I like where the Seahawks are going, and McDonald has me excited for this team. Simple. Todd Bowles. He's probably going to get fired. I don't think he should necessarily get fired. I think he's fine. Do I think he's fine or do I think he's in? I think he's fine. I'd put him above Brian Daboll. Would I put him above Jonathan Gannon? No. I'd probably put him above Brian Daboll and call it a day. He's fine. Don't have anything passionate about it. I think he's able to win games. I just don't think he's able to really get you to the games you want to win. Simple. Brian Callahan and Dan Quinn are the last 2. It's newer head coaches here. I don't like the head coach choice for Tennessee here. I don't blame them, which is why I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with This just feels like I'm gonna keep him top of the because I don't think he's better than all these other guys. he seems fine. He's a good. I mean, this is what's tough about some of these head coaches, is that I don't see anything that's exciting me. I don't see anything great from this guy, but like I also don't think he has a horrible track record. I mean, he was in Denver, of course, for a long time, and I think he's fine. Like from everything I had, but like he was offensive coordinator for the Bengals last year, actually for the last few years of 2020, I think. So he was there for their Super Bowl run, and he was able to kind of lead Joe Burrow in that way. But is that really what they need? That's kind of where I'm at, where it's like I don't know if Tennessee hired the right type of guy. I think Callahan's good. I think he's capable of being a head coach. I just worry about the team in general, I guess, for that, when there's a lot of unknown with the Tennessee Titans. Granted, I don't think they should have fired Vrabel in the first place, but sue me, I guess. So I guess I'm just kind of sour about that. And I'm not even necessarily a Tennessee Titans fan. I just feel it from my other friends who actually kind of like this head coach or this possibility. I just have a bad feeling. So I'm kind of like, I would almost say the top of for me is kind of like meeting in the middle, where I don't personally like the choice, but I don't have anything against him and the direction they're going against per se. I just don't like the fit, I guess. So we're just gonna go with that. And Dan Quinn, like what? I don't even know really what to say about Dan Quinn. He just has. I think this is probably the worst. Oh no, is this the worst head coach hiring? I'm just looking at some of the credentials to help remind me. I mean, he's got the track. He's got the track record. I don't like him personally. I don't think he's also a good choice for the Commanders. His track record's all the way over the place. I think he's done well where he has. So I'm going to, out of respect, I'm not going to put him and don't like him. I think there's nothing good you can say about either one of these two coaches for me, or about the Panthers or Bears, to make me put them anywhere above. But out of respect, I'm going to put Dan Quinn into just because I think that there's enough there, or maybe I'm just kind of seeing the cover of the book, and I'm missing something that maybe the Commanders really liked about him. It just seemed like just a head coach I don't know enough about for me to judge him intensely, but also from what I do see, I just don't like it. And then again, the Commanders kind of need a different type of direction. I don't know how much difference he's making over Ron Rivera is kind of what I'm looking at there. So that's kind of my overall thoughts. Some of the new head coaches I can understand. If you have a little bit different opinion of me, I don't blame you. Obviously, I just don't think you can put any of them in pretty damn good or above right now. But I think you can put them overly optimistic. Maybe you feel differently about Dan Quinn because maybe you saw a lot of his work. I just think he's jumped around too much too for my liking. Obviously, I know it's a quick turnover in a lot of leagues, but you gotta establish yourself some place, and that sits wrong with me. That he's not like established somewhere. It just feels like he all over the place, kind of like me. So I'm an probably. So that's my initial kind of instinct on that. So this is kind of my head coach kind of stance right here. I think it was actually really fun. A lot of the head coaches I didn't know a whole lot about. I got to kind of read a little bit about their backgrounds, and these new head coaches I got to learn their names a little bit. We'll see how long that sticks actually, but this is kind of my tier list for these guys. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like down below. StraightA Dawson out.